Hello and welcome to the Oxygenaddict Triathlon Podcast. We're brought to you every week by our sponsors, PrecisionHydration.com.
Precision Hydration offer electrolyte drinks in different strengths to match how you sweat. Personalise your hydration strategy today at precisionhydration.com and get a free box or tube of pH worth up to $9.99 using the code Oxygenaddict.
And we're also brought to you courtesy of our very kind patrons
who support the show with a monthly donation. You can get our 2018 Patrons Only podcast as a thank you.
And some special good stuff from Lucy Charles and Cam Worth in that Patrons Only podcast, isn't there? I was thinking back the other day as to what was in it, and yeah, interesting stuff. I liked listening back to the Cam Worth interview about his race in Hawaii, which was pretty cool.
Yes, and Jodie Stimpson as well.
Do you know, Cam Worth popped up just the other day. I was listening to my second favourite podcast at the moment, the one that's got Lance Armstrong on the, what's it called? It's not called Stages anymore, it's called The Move. And Cam Worth had written in a question to them to say, do you think that Geraint Thomas can win, or do you think it's going to be a Chris Froome show? And Lance very helpfully gave him the advice that if he was going to move over to Ironman, he's going to have to seriously raise his game in swimming and running. So,
did he answer the question?
Not sure that Lance is totally up to date with Cam's performances so far, but
no. Did he answer the question about who's going to win?
He didn't so much answer it in terms of who's going to win. I think he basically said, barring a bad day, he thinks it's totally feasible that Geraint can win, but it's going to be down to Froome to decide whether he wants to win badly enough to attack his own teammate and what will happen then, kind of thing. And he also makes the very good point that I'd forgotten until I'd listened to this today. Almost all of Tom Dumoulin's time gap is down to the fact he punctured and then he got given an extra 20-second penalty. For, I think it was on, I can't remember which stage it was on, but he punctured, lost 50-odd seconds to the group and then got penalised another 20 seconds because he sat in behind a team car. At the time, everyone kind of said, oh, well, it's a minute and 20 seconds, but that's pretty much remained the time gap apart from the bonuses to this point that he's behind the other two. So to lose the Tour de France on the basis of a puncture and what's I think a pretty mean penalty for getting back behind the car, which is what pretty much everyone does there.
Yeah,
it's a tough one, isn't it?
This time of year, Rob, is my favourite time of year. I genuinely
too much going on, isn't there? There's too much sport.
Honestly, I love it. I come home and then I'm like, right, Tour de France highlights. And when you have a rest day, or the Tour has a rest day, you don't have a rest day. It's like, what am I going to do? What? I need my Tour de France fix. Yeah. I need to see Gary Imlach's hair, and I need to have a little funky dance to the music.
Gary Imlach's hair should have its own statue put on the side of Mont Ventoux. It's something of legend, isn't it? I'd kill for half a hair like that.
I love his sense of humour.
He's great, isn't he? And I tell you what, Ned Bolton's done a fantastic job on the commentary. Really like him. He's the most excitable guy in the world.
Yeah, and with David Miller's expertise as well.
Yep.
But not nice, in a geeky way.
It's a nice kind of interplay, isn't it?
Oh, it's magic. It's commentary gold, Bob. Yeah.
Well, I tell you what, this leads us on nicely, doesn't it, to some other commentary gold, because guess what, listeners? Guess who's going to be doing some commentary gold at the Outlaw Triathlon this weekend as I'm slogging my sorry backside around a marathon? Come on, Hels.
Not you then.
Not me then, because I'll be out jogging painfully slowly through what looks like it's going to be a baking hot afternoon again. Who's going to be behind the mic cheering me on?
I'm going to have a little stint behind the mic. Yep.
Good stuff. How exciting.
I know. I can't wait. So please do come and say hello. And it's going to be great. I'll be doing a little bit of a turn.
How long are you on there for?
About 3 hours.
So if you see Helen standing there just talking and talking, go over and say hi and introduce yourself, or send your supporters over, because, man, what are you going to talk about for 3 hours? That's a big shift, mate.
Yeah, I know. Well, hopefully at that point, Rob, you might not be crossing the finish line, but other people will be. So hopefully we'll be able to call a few people over the finish line during those few hours. And we're just going to be talking a lot of triathlon fun.
Hels, if I'm crossing the line in 3 hours, then there's going to be some serious need for the dope testers at the finish line. There's going to be more than precision hydration in my wee at that point if it's getting me over the line in 3 hours.
Yeah, that is a little bit unrealistic because no pressure on our other team member, Rich, on the bike.
No pressure at all. He's going to have fun. He can just go out and zoom around, can't he? I think doing
Oh,
the bike leg of something like that must be the most fun because there's no pressure to have to do anything at the end. You can completely end yourself. And conversely, it doesn't really matter, does it? Because it's not like we're competing for anything.
no, no. I get to come out the water and then think, all right, where is everyone?
Yeah.
Literally, there will be no one around. I don't think at that
Rubbish,
point
Helen.
because everyone will be going to. But once everyone's out the water, there will be a couple of hours when there aren't that many people.
I'll be there. I'll be there with a coffee for you. Don't you worry. We can
Oh
go
yeah,
back and we can chill in the camper van and get a coffee. And then I think what we should do is we should get the supporters bus and go and cheer the bike riders on, and then get the supporters bus back again. We've got loads of time to do that.
and then I'm back in time to be on the mic.
Yeah, we've both got to be back for one, haven't we? Ish.
Yes.
No pressure,
yes.
Rich. 12:30, 12:15. He's into it, isn't he? He's borrowed my skin suit and got a new helmet. Oh, did you not know that?
No, I was aware of the
I thought I just,
on the helmet.
Rich, I'm so sorry. I suddenly had that moment where I was like,
serious.
oh, have I just blown his purchase? Oh dear.
No, he's very happy with. Well, it hasn't arrived yet, but don't ever. What is it? Don't test out new equipment on race day.
It'll be fine. It's a helmet. What can go wrong? What could possibly go wrong?
Hilarious.
Yeah, so if you're at the Outlaw this weekend, come over and say hi. We'd love to see you. We'll be mincing around at the expo, won't we? Hells, you're going to be signing some books. I'm going to come and sit with you for a bit. And we'll be drinking tea. Will we be eating cake?
Yes.
So like on no pressure, Hells, but
Saturday, no pressure. Saturday, I'm going to be in a yellow Fueled by Cake t-shirt.
Love it. And
hopefully on Sunday, if the printers have done their job this week, I'm going to be in a black Oxygenaddict Triathlon Podcast t-shirt. Hopefully.
Well, you can have one of mine, even if it doesn't arrive. So you're either going to be wearing a very well-fitting one or an extremely baggy men's size medium.
Yeah.
It's all good. And it's looking like it's going to be pretty toasty as well for a bit of outlaw action this weekend. So for international listeners, this is probably the biggest non-branded event that's held in the UK. There's probably going to be close to 2,000 people racing, so big old event. And it's an excellent job. I'm dead excited to go down and see it, Els, because I've meant to get down year after year and it just hasn't happened. So confluence of opportunity and motive this year, it's going to be ace.
I know. I really, if it is anything like Outlaw Half, it's going to be a brilliant weekend in Nottingham.
Excellent stuff. Right then, so that's that. There's been a bit of racing gone on this weekend, so shout out to results sponsored by our friends over at precisionhydration.com. Remember, you can get yourself a free tube or the sachets of pH worth up to $9.99 by using the code Oxygenaddict at checkout. So it is totally free. You've just got to pay for postage. It is going to be super hot again still. We keep saying it's going to break, don't we, Hells? But it is no sign of breaking yet. So take care of your hydration, take care of your electrolytes, especially if you're racing. Again, it comes with a caveat, don't try anything new on race day, but whatever you've been using in training, you're going to need plenty of it on race day. And electrolytes and salt tablets tend to be something that they don't have on aid stations. So make sure you take care of your own needs there, essentially. I'm going to be seriously gulping some down during this marathon this weekend, Hells, because do you remember I mentioned it was my birthday this weekend just gone?
Yes.
I had 2 exciting parcels arrived for my birthday. The first one was a self-purchased pair of reading glasses, so I can now. Turns out my Chromebook isn't broken and the screen isn't blurred. It turns out my eyes have given up. Yeah, so I now have crystal clear vision and a very hipster pair of Wayfarer-esque reading glasses, which makes me look a bit of a tool. But there you go, that's life. Second exciting parcel that arrived was a birthday parcel from Precision Hydration.
No way. What was in it?
Yeah,
what was in it?
So Dave at PH heard me blethering on, sent a little parcel out, bucket loads of 1500 pH, a new little water bottle, a new a pH buff, which is going to come in well handy in the winter. And coolest thing ever, like those ultra runners water bottle things, squeezy plastic ones.
Yes.
One of those. great big
Brilliant.
one of those.
That will come in really handy.
Very handy. Yeah, you said it. So I'm super excited. Happiest birthday gift ever.
Yeah, that's great. I love it. I love it. I had a
So
jar
thanks,
of peanut
Dave.
butter turn up today, Bob.
You had what? Sorry.
A tub of peanut butter turn up today.
Really?
Yeah, I had ordered it. I mean,
Oh, I was going to say,
yeah.
is your celebrity so great now that peanut butter manufacturers are sending them to you for sampling?
Not at all. But I had a bit of a moment when I was like, oh my God, I'm down to half a jar. So yeah, I've sorted that out and it came today so I can cope. I'm now fine for another, don't know, 2 weeks.
The peanut butter gets a hammering at your house, doesn't it?
Oh my God, it's dreadful. Right, Rob, shall we chat some results?
Let's do it. So first up, the European ETU Championships were this weekend over various distances, and we had wins for Sophie Caldwell and also Richard Varga.
Yes. So now, Rob, this is where it was slightly. You could be a little bit confused by this. So for the elites, this was European Sprint Distance Championships.
Got ya. For the age group.
The age group, it was standard.
Got ya.
Glasgow in a couple of weeks is going to be standard.
Oh.
For the elites.
And sprint for the age groupers.
Yeah.
There you go, because we were wondering how there were going to be two. I was talking with Susie about this the other day. How come there's two ETU champs in the same year?
Yes, I was confused by it as well.
Yeah.
Yep. And in Estonia as well, it was the para triathlon European Championships too, and there were loads of golds and loads of medals for the British team out there as well. So yeah,
looks like over 50% of the field was Brits apparently at these European Championships, which is pretty phenomenal, isn't it?
Yeah, they always put, honestly, the British team,
they put out a good team, don't they?
Yeah, age group, they always show up in numbers. And there were a lot of para triathletes out there as well, the GB para tri team. So yeah, they always, go out there, represent, and come back with a lot of bling.
Good stuff. And also this weekend we had kind of an iconic race in the US, Ironman Lake Placid, which has been one of the, I think it was the original, it used to be called Ironman USA back in the day, that's how old I am. But it was only a pro race this year for the men. I think they alternate it year on year, pro men 1 year, pro women the next year.
Yeah, that's right.
So win for Heather Jackson.
Yep, that's right, Rob. And it's a second win there. And it means she validated her slot for Kona. If you go back and have a look back at some of the interviews that we've done this year, Heather Jackson should be on there. And she was so much fun. She was so much fun to interview. So do go back.
Great one, that wasn't it?
Wasn't she? Do go back and have a listen. So yeah, so she got her Kona ticket in 9:18, and then Jen Annett of Canada second in 9:33, and Sarah Piampiano 9:43 to take third.
I think Heather Jackson's time was the second fastest ever on that course, so she was ripping it, man. I'd love to go out and do that race. That was one of the. They used to have this Channel 4 show on early in the morning, and I used to video them all and then play them back at school on the treadmill when I was training late after school. And Ironman Lake Placid from about 2004 was one of the ones I had on video, and I must have watched it dozens and dozens of times.
Really?
It was the year that Simon Lessing won it from Luke Bell.
Yep.
It was basically his one decent race at the Ironman distance before all his back problems. And he was so far ahead and so outclassed the rest of the male pro field, he sat up and waited for Luke Bell because he was lonely on the bike. And Luke Bell said afterwards, it broke his heart because he was like, I couldn't believe I was catching Simon Lessing. And he just stopped for a chat. And then he rode away from him again. And I remember really clearly Luke Bell, who was only young at the time, maybe it was 2005 or 6 actually. He kind of had this faraway look in his eyes and he went, yeah, I think I've just been beaten by this year's Kona winner. And unfortunately, it never really happened for Simon Lessing after that. His back problems just were unovercomable for him at that stage in his career. So he never really got the sort of respect he deserved at the Ironman distance after dominating, the short course forever. But yeah, it was really fun to watch him. And I think if I remember rightly, his back problems were so bad he was riding a road bike as well, a road bike with clip-ons. So to win any race. Yeah, it's pretty full on, isn't it?
Oh my goodness! Wow.
Yeah.
And that wasn't Trans World Sport, Rob. That is a separate program that used to be on Channel 4.
They used to do a separate, like a half-hour long Ironman roundup thing. Yeah.
Oh,
Going back some years now, aren't we?
I didn't ever watch that. I did used to watch Trans World Sport.
Yeah, that was great, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That was where I first ever saw Ironman, actually, back in the late 80s. I remember watching.
I think a lot of people did.
Yeah.
It's brilliant. Honestly, they need to bring Trans World Sport back. Rob, one other result to bring you is that Ben Canute, the 2016 Olympian from the USA, and Angela Nath of Canada, they won in Boston, didn't they? There was a triathlon in Boston at the weekend. Swim was cancelled because of really rubbish weather, but yeah, the two of them took the honours in a bit of a duathlon.
Yeah, notable here for Ben Canute because the day before he took part in this thing called the mixed relay race at the Atlantic City Major League Triathlon. Does that in a team of 4, wins it, gets in his car, drives 350 miles to race Boston the next day. Now, to put that in context, Hells, that's the same drive I did coming back from Cornwall. That's like a proper 7 or 8 hour drive, isn't it? It's not ideal preparation for racing, so fair play to him.
We have such a different perspective, don't we, on distances?
Yeah, we totally do.
I mean, if you said to me, right, you're racing in Cardiff one day and, I don't know, Wrexham another, I'd be like, am I really? No, I don't think so. I'm going to go see friends in Cardiff.
You're racing in Edinburgh 70.3 one day and then in, I don't know, Nottingham the next day or something, isn't it? It's bonkers.
Yeah.
And Precision Hydration have just announced they've signed Ben Canute as one of their athletes, one of their sponsored athletes. So it's another nice little tie in there. So it's obviously doing the job for him, isn't it, over in the USA?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, he did a really good race, didn't he, last year at the 70.3 World Champs?
Yeah, he sure did. All right, cool. Coach's Couch this week.
I like this one, Rob. This one comes in from Chris Barry, and he says, how do you work out what to eat, when to eat, and how often to eat if you're doing your first half Ironman without actually doing another 70.3 before your race?
Yeah, it's a great question, isn't it? And I thought I really like this because one of my friends the other day was saying to me, she'd listened to a few of our podcasts and she's brand new to triathlon and said, this stuff's all good, but you need to do some stuff for beginners in your Coach's Couch section because you do all the stuff about aerodynamics and hand position and what kind of pointy helmet you should wear. And there's loads of us just getting into it who are super keen and we don't know the very basic stuff to go through. So when this question came through from Chris, I thought that's a really good one. And you think back to your first 70.3 and it seems so daunting, doesn't it? The first time you do any distance, whether you're stepping up from sprint to Olympic, everything's new. And I thought, yeah, great. What do you eat? So Chris, our guidelines here is you're basically not going to do anything on race day that you've not tried in training. That's the first thing. And it probably won't feel any more difficult or easier on race day than it does in training anyway. So the things that you can eat in training, you're going to be able to eat on race day. And even though you've got this concern that you haven't strung all 3 of these distances together back to back, I don't think you necessarily need to practice your calorie and your fluid intake in the same way for each one. So if we break it down between swim, bike and run, a real good thing to do is before you go down to the swim, just take a little bottle of water with you because it's not unusual as you're going down to the water to suddenly find yourself with a raging thirst, is it, Hells? Have you ever had that?
Oh, no. Well, yeah,
everyone gets it, right?
The first one. It's horrible. And
just before you get in, you suddenly go, oh God, I need a drink. So you just have a little bottle of water with you in a cheap plastic bottle that you can put down or leave with a volunteer. So you've always got something there just to have a couple of mouthfuls of. Then you don't need to think about drinking or eating anything during the swim for your 70.3. When you get out of the water, again, I would say let your stomach settle and don't have anything for the first sort of 10 minutes on the bike. You don't need to be gulping stuff down in transition. Let your stomach settle, get onto the bike and off you go. And then our guideline is always 250 calories an hour, give or take, seems to be about the right balance of giving you enough energy to get you through the event without putting so much stuff into your stomach that you're not going to be able to digest it. Because you can always put a little bit more in later on if you find yourself hungry or you can feel like a low blood sugar thing. If you eat too much and you stuff it all in, you're going to feel terrible. It's not going to digest and you're going to end up with very bloated guts. So you want to avoid that. So in terms of food, gels and drinks, it doesn't really matter how you take them in as long as you're comfortable with it. So if the race is giving out nutrition, if it's one of the big branded events, it's not a bad idea to practice with the kind of gels or bars or whatever that they're giving out. If you're doing a smaller event and they might not be doing that, you might have to carry your own gels and food with you for the bike anyway. But that's okay. You've got a jersey with pockets in, right? So you take along either a little selection of energy bars or some flapjacks or some homemade stuff. Combine that with the energy drink in your bottle or combine it with a couple of gels as well. And you've got enough there that will give you a change of taste along the way, but it's going to keep your energy levels topped up. Can you think of anything to add there, Hels?
No, I think that is a very good advice. Yeah, if you don't have pockets in your tri-top, then it might be worth getting a little top bar bag for your top bar, which you can put some things in, or finding a way to tape. Some people tape gels, don't they, to their top bar?
Yeah.
So different things there, and I would just say find what works for you.
Yeah, there's no magic, is there? It's just
no.
One thing I would say, and I know some people laugh at this, but the more easily digested the food, the easier time you're going to have digesting it. So simple sugary things, bananas are great, gels are great. It's going to go straight into your bloodstream, which is where you need it. You do hear people, especially in long distance races, saying, I just got sick of the taste of sweet stuff, so I had a pork pie. Right now, fair play, you want something savoury. I personally, I can't think of anything worse than a pork pie to eat when you're on a bike. It's been sitting in your back pocket in the sun for 2 hours.
Oh God, don't. No.
Yeah, a lump of meat I don't think is necessarily the best thing. So maybe if you do want something savoury, I don't know, Helen's patented peanut butter sandwich might not be a bad call. Or even some kind of like salted crackers or something like that. But try and make it as easily digestible as you possibly can. And then when you get onto the run, most people find that the more liquid calories they can take on in the run rather than solid ones, the better. So again, it can be either energy drink, it can be Coke, it can be gels. I would advise you not to mix the two. So if you do move on to drinking Coke, I'd advise you not to have gels from that point on, because Coke seems to do a real good job of getting your blood sugar level up, but it doesn't seem to mix well with others, does it? It's like the rowdy drunk at the party.
Oh.
It'll not mix well with electrolyte drinks. It'll not mix well with gels, and you can get a bit of an upset stomach sometimes. So once you move on to Coke, it's Coke and water all the way to the finish and nothing else. That's pretty much all I've got, unless you can think of anything to add on that one, Hels.
No, just we didn't mention breakfast before, or if you do have an early start, or if you have a lunchtime start, you think about what you're going to eat beforehand. So let's say it's a typical triathlon in the UK, which means it's sort of 6-7 o'clock start. So you are looking to eat around 2.5 hours beforehand, aren't you? And that could be...
It can be tough, that can't it, isn't it, that time in the morning?
Yeah, but it's almost like it's sometimes you feel like you are just sitting there and forcing it down you, because you know that you have to have something in you.
It's good to have something solid in your stomach, isn't it, first thing?
Yeah, so it might be porridge or it might be some toast. But again, you will know what works for you and stick with that.
I'm leaning people away from, scrambled eggs and butter, and I know there's a whole movement that advocates that, but personally I think you want to be having something nice and simple and easily to digest and topping those carb stores up, basically. And another nice tip here is, and I remember this really clearly from a friend of mine who raced at the World Championships and met some fast French dudes the night before, and they said you've got free reign to eat all kinds of sugary delicious snacks the night before, because it's just going to keep your blood sugar high. So that's a nice little treat to have the night before. Bit of cake action at bedtime.
And then two other things which again you could try in leading up to it. When you spoke to Lucy Charles last time we had her on, go back to that interview and listen to what she had in her top tube and how she kept it cold.
Yeah. We should tell him, shouldn't we, really, rather than make him hunt for it. It was a frozen Snickers bar chopped up. So she freezes it and then it slowly defrosts as she goes along.
Yeah, genius. Absolutely genius.
In fact, Lance and George Hincapie were recommending the same thing as well. for their Tour de France.
Really?
Believe it or not, they were saying how after 3 days, no matter who they were sponsored by, everybody's sick of their own particular sponsors' bars, and everyone in the peloton swapping it around. And by like week 3, people just want Coke and Snickers. It's all they can get down them.
Brilliant.
Good stuff. All right then. So that's our coach's couch done for this week. Thanks very much, Chris, for sending the question in. I hope it answers your question. And if you guys have got any more questions, don't be afraid to ask anything. We're here to try and help you. So if you're a newbie and you're thinking, I daren't ask this question because it sounds too obvious, nothing's off bounds. Send it through. Give us a shout out. You can send it through to help@oxygenaddict.com, or you can send it through via the Facebook or the Twitter feeds that we've got. And we've got all kinds of stuff going over on oxygenaddict.com, from training plans, coach consultations, Team Oxygen Addict memberships. Get over there and check it out if you're considering coaching. If I can't help you out, I'm sure that I know somebody who can, so give us a call. Which leads us beautifully, Helen, into this week's interview of the week. I'm extremely excited to say that we've got back on the show Ironman UK winner Joe Skipper. All right, so very happy to have Joe Skipper back on the show. Joe, on behalf of everybody, congratulations on hitting that top podium step at Ironman UK this past weekend. How are you feeling, buddy?
I'm feeling great, mate. Yeah, all good. And yeah, really pleased to finally get on the top step. Fourth time lucky. Yeah,
it's been a fair journey to get you there, hasn't it?
Yeah, I was third in 2013, second in 2014. Really disappointed with third in 2015. I said to Paul Savage, I said, I ain't coming back here. I ain't doing this race again. Don't suit me. I was in a bit of a mood, I think. And then and then come back again this year and feel like I finally managed to do it.
Yeah, well, it's great, man. Congratulations. I mean, there's the two things here. Firstly, it always feels to me like you're the hometown hero because you grew up there, you know, going to university in Manchester. There's always loads of support for you there from the locals. It feels like you're the adopted course hero through being British at UK as well. And I'm always amazed at the amount of like shouting and cheering and stuff that goes on for you there. But also because it stamps your place at Kona as well, right?
Yeah, so that's awesome for me. Like to finally, tick that box and get Kona sorted because after Roth, I knew I was going to either have to do Ironman UK or Hamburg, and Hamburg does suit me a bit better. The course, with it being, flatter on the bike, like generally I do a lot better on them kind of courses. But I really fancied giving Ironman UK a go, and I knew I had unfinished business, so I had to go back there at some point to do it. And yeah, like you said, the atmosphere was absolutely incredible on the run course, and just over the moon to win it and to get Kona qualification sorted.
It was great, wasn't it? The crowds, I was down in the town centre section and the crowds were like 2 or 3 deep almost most of the way around. It's amazing to me how much the event has grown over the past few years, and it's got that feel now of a massive European race, hasn't it?
Yeah, on the run course especially, I would say is massive. The support what you get out there, I'd say that's probably one of the best courses on the circuit for support because especially with it being 4 laps now, and with it coming into the city centre, it's so accessible for people. So that is awesome. And then on the bike course as well now, there's there was always a bit of support on Hunters Hill, and I'm not sure what one of the other hills is called, but it's kind of like you go over a crossroads and up a little drag. But there's a lot of people standing there now, and it's like 3 or 4 deep. So there's certain parts on the bike course where you get really good support as well. So yes, the people I think locally all get massively behind it, and the support is pretty awesome out there.
Oh, good, man. I'm glad you enjoyed it, because from our point of view, I mean, we had loads of our club mates and teammates racing, and they reported back afterwards, and they were just like, some people said to me, I didn't even see you out there, Rob. And it's like people I'd made eye contact with, come on, mate. And there are so many people, it's so thick, I don't think they even register people's faces. So it's great to hear that, at the very sharp end of the pro race, there's as much support for you as there was for the age groupers later on as well.
Yeah, I didn't actually see you out there. I was actually looking. I was thinking, I wonder if he's here this year. But I didn't actually see you as well. I didn't know if you were up there.
Well, I'll tell you where I was. I was right on the. I I was right on the last corner as you came round into the finishing chute. You know, where you stopped and you took that selfie with that woman, and it took about 30 seconds to get the selfie. I was probably 30 or 40 meters away, and again, there were so many people there. You don't see everybody, do you?
Yeah, my mum and dad apparently were near where I took that selfie, and they were like, "Oh, you didn't even come and say anything to us." I said, "I didn't even see you." And they said, "Oh, we thought you were looking right at us, and you were going to come over and say something."
Well, I'll send you the photo afterwards. I got a cracking photo of you coming around the corner, and I'm going to use it for the screenshot for this podcast. But I mean, you're looking right at me, so it just shows how many people were there.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Well, listen, talk us through the race then, because splits wise, it looks like you had a cracker. It looks like you had a really decent swim. How did it all play out for you, and how did it feel on race day? It was a non-wetsuit swim, wasn't it? Which is pretty unusual even for the pros in the UK.
Yeah, that is unusual, and the swim was a bit manic, to be honest, because we started off at the same time as the age groupers, but the age groupers obviously had wetsuits because it was under the cut-off for them. So. I mean, obviously we got like a 50 or 60 meter head start, I think. But yeah, it started off and I was kind of just behind the front pack, after about 400 or 500 meters in, I could see him. And two age groupers came past me in wetsuits. I thought, brilliant. This is my chance to, get a little latch onto them and get dragged up to the front pack. But they were storming through.
Yeah.
And I think they bridged up to the front pack, but then maybe got on the front of that and like split it up, because looking at the results of the swim, it looked like everyone got out the water in ones and twos. So at the start of the bike, everyone was quite isolated, I think. And then, once I got on the bike, I mean, I'm not entirely sure what position I was in. I think I was 6th or 7th. I just kind of thought, well, I'll ride obviously we're being a bit short because of the fires on the moors. I thought, well, I'll treat it a bit, I'll ride it a bit more intense than what I would normally.
Okay.
So I pushed on from the start, I hit like a pothole coming onto the actual 2-lap circuit, so probably about 15 k's in, and that knocked my bar, one of my tribal.
Nightmare.
Yeah, so it came loose, and I tested it the day before, and it was all good, but I mean some of the roads I think have been really hit hard with the winter, so it was really rough, and just knocked it loose. So I had to get an Allen key at some point on the course. Luckily, a motorbiker who was, following the race had one, so I managed to get one off him, stop and tighten it up. Lost some bottles as well, but other than that, it was it was quite uneventful, really. I caught the people in the first lap of the bike. I caught a few people, but they never really came with me. And once I went past, I looked back to see if they were there, and they weren't there. So I was on my own. And then on the second lap, I caught Fraser. I was in third at that point. When I caught him, I'd just taken second. I think that was about 95 kilometers in. I was getting time splits to the leader, saying I was around 4.5 minutes down. Sometimes people were saying 4, some people were saying 5, and then others 4.5. Which made no sense because it would constantly be changing, up and down the map. So I thought. Yeah, so I thought it's around 4.5. So I said to Fraser, "Come on, mate, come with me." I said, "I'll do the majority of the work. You just do what you can." Because I thought, well, if I can get close to him, I thought I've got a good chance of the win. And I thought maybe Fraser will be happy if he only has to do a little bit to help me, because then he'll get pulled away from the people behind him, and that will help him, and he can get on the podium as well. So I thought it would be in both our interests, because I didn't know what the guy in front was like at running, and I don't really want to give anyone 5 minutes. I thought was a bit too much, because tactically they can play it a lot different, can't they? Then, and it's almost like they can just run their own run rather than having to worry about you, and you kind of you feel like you have to hope that they blow up. And I didn't want to leave it to that. I thought if it got to 3 minutes, that'd be a lot better. And when I came into transition, I heard that I was 3 minutes behind. So I was like, brilliant, that's good. I'll start off at my own pace on the run and see what happens for the first lap and kind of give myself a chance to get into it. Came round at the end of the first lap, and I think I'd only taken about 10, 15 seconds off him. So I was like, I know that wasn't enough, but I was like, well, that's only the first 10K, and I thought he's going to be running it pretty hard because he's going to be trying to mentally make me think that I'm not going to catch him, and he's going to want to take that 3-minute lead into the last half and just hope that I blow up trying to catch him, I guess, or hope that I give up, thinking that I can win it and I settle for second.
Yeah.
So to see what happens on the second lap. I thought my legs felt a bit better on the second lap, so I think I actually run that a bit harder as well. And I came through, and I think I was about 1.5 minutes, 1 minute 40, something like that, starting the third lap, and then going up the hill to back onto the, there was a tough hill about a mile, which you started about a mile into each lap, wasn't there, going through Queen's Park?
That's right, yeah.
I think it was about 500 meters at about 7% on Strava, so pretty reasonable climb. So when I hit that, when I got to the top of that, they said, he's about 45 seconds ahead. So I was like, brilliant, I think I'm gonna get him. I thought I was always running a bit from the turn back into town, which was all downhill, really, really well. Like I felt like I was running that better than what other people were. So I thought if I catch him around the turn, I can use that downhill bit to push on. Like if someone's pretty tired, they won't be able to get the leg speed. They'll almost be feeling like they're stuck in one gear. So my plan was to try and catch him around the turn. I actually caught him just before that, probably about 300 or 400 meters before we got to the turn. And then just went for it a bit into town. And then next thing I know, when I was in town, I heard Paul Kay, the announcer, saying when I went out to start my last lap, you've got 1 minute and 45 seconds. So I kind of felt like I had it in the bag then, but I always find it feels a bit funny when you're running in the lead because you don't know what's going behind you. Yeah. I would prefer to be the chaser because I feel like I'm in a bit more control. Whereas like when I was in first, I was like, was he getting a second wind? What? Is he going to be catching me? Because you can't see, can you? You don't want to keep looking over your shoulder. But I thought, obviously if I'd taken 1 minute 45, as long as I don't blow up on the last lap, I should have it in the bag. But when I turned with about 3.5 miles to go back into town, at the start of the downhill section again, I saw I had about 4.5 minutes when I got a split on him. So I was like pretty sure that I was going to win it then. You start doing the maths in your head, and I was like, well, I can lose 1.5 minutes per mile to him. He's probably running at like 7:30 miling. So I was like, well, I can do 9 minute miling and I've got it in the bag. So like when I did like a 6 minute mile, I knew that then I could do like a 10 or 11 minute mile for the last 2 miles.
Yeah. Something's got to go badly wrong at that point, hasn't it, for you to...
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, I could walk and run it, bearing in mind it's like downhill as well at that point. But that's what I did in my head to try and like work out like how much I had, because I don't know, it plays like funny tricks on you, I think, because you always start doubting yourself a bit when you're in the lead. Whereas when you're chasing them, you're like, yes, I'm gonna get it, and he's not gonna be able to go with me, and I'm gonna win it. But I just think it's because you can't see them, and you never know like if they're gonna get a second win.
It's interesting, Joe, because from an outsider's perspective, I was sitting and looking at the splits, and I thought, like, hats off to you. It was I think it was one of your most mature runs in that I've seen you in the past, especially at UK the first year, and you came out of T2 like you were in an Olympic distance. You're like, I'm going to catch him, and I thought this year you've not done that at all. You've gone out really measured. You've kind of let the guy hang out in front for 10K. Didn't take any time out from over that first lap, but you stayed really composed. And then as he started to hurt coming up to the halfway point, it feels like you really turned the screw and took him at that point. And to run 2:45 on that course, hats off to you, mate. That's a really good performance on what's a very difficult and underrated marathon course, I think.
Oh yeah, definitely. Because on my Garmin, I got it as a bit long, and I actually had it as the same pace. Exactly the same pace to the second per mile as what I ran at Challenge Roth 2 weeks before. But that course is like the Bolton course is a lot harder, People don't know, you've got a tough hill at the start, like a mile into the course, which is like 500 meters at 7%. And then once you get to the top of that, it's not flat. It's probably about, would you say 2% gradient for about 1.5 miles all the way to the turn?
It's a long, draggy uphill, isn't it? Yeah. There's no flat on that course apart from the section around the town centre. Yeah,
it's really undulating. So like one half of the course is uphill, and the next half is like pretty much downhill. So yeah, it's not an easy one. So it was a better run than Roth, but I felt a lot better on the run. Like in Roth, I didn't actually feel that good. I started it and I felt just a bit tired and not that great. But I kind of just thought when I was in Roth, I was like, well, I'm quite far behind the guys in front. I just need to pace it the best I can and just hope that they blow up and see where I am with 10Ks to go, and if I can up it anymore, if I'm in a race with people, then do that. But and then the same pretty much similar thing what I did in Bolton, because you say about running the races better, I think you learn over the time, don't you, when there's no medals for like getting to the halfway point in the lead, is there?
Yeah.
If you go 13 miles in the lead, but then you blow up, then you don't get anything for that. So I kind of thought, as long as I'm in contention with 5Ks to go, then I'll have a good shot at the win. But I thought there's no point catching him too early and then blowing up and then having him come past me. So I just paced it a lot better and thought I'll just, play it by ear for the first 2 laps and see where I am on the 3rd lap. And I thought that's the one where you can really do the damage, because that's where people start feeling it, because you're halfway in, but you still feel like you're a long way from the finish. You still got 13 miles to go. So if you can push that bit from 13 to 20 miles hard, then it puts you in really good stead. And in the last 10K, if you're in a good position, you kind of can use the crowd to push you on, can't you, for the finish?
Yeah, definitely. And listen, you mentioned there, Roth, obviously, it's quite eyebrow raising for normal humans to be able to race another good Ironman 2 weeks after the one you just did at Roth. You were 4th at Roth, which I know wasn't probably the result in terms of placing you were hoping for, but you went really well there and you ran really, really hard. So what I was wondering was, how did you feel at Bolton compared to Roth, and what was it that you did in between the 2 races that allowed you to recover well enough to have, a really good race? Because I think most people are just sore for 10 days after an Ironman, Joe.
Well, after Roth, I wasn't actually 100% sure that I was going to do UK, and Laura came out with me to Roth. So afterwards, we planned to, because we drove there to stay in Bruges for a night, 2 days in there, like sightseeing and stuff. So we were going out, walking around, and having a few drinks and stuff like that. So it wasn't actually the best recovery from Roth, and I felt it a bit. My legs were quite sore actually after that run until the Thursday, I remember, and the Friday was the first day they started to feel a bit better. And then Saturday and Sunday, on the Sunday I raced an Olympic distance up here.
Oh, did you? It gets better. And how did that feel then? Let's talk about that. How did your legs feel racing an Olympic a week after an Ironman?
Well, I felt quite tired because it was the England match on the Saturday night, and then it was a friend had a barbecue, so we were watching that, and then with the early start, I woke up and I felt a bit battered in the morning. But when I wanted to have another practice at a decent swim, a hard swim, so I felt all right in the swim. I felt a bit tired. The bike, I felt really good, I felt quite fresh. But then the run, I felt just a bit tired. But that was mainly because of lack of sleep, because I had to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning. When you're watching the football and then having a barbecue, I probably only got 5.5 hours sleep, 6 hours. So it wasn't great preparation. I wouldn't recommend that.
No, we're not going to pencil it in as the ideal recovery strategy, are we?
Definitely not. It definitely wasn't ideal. But yeah, I felt all right, and I managed to get a good session out. I pushed the bike pretty hard, and then the run, it's off-road, the run course for this triathlon. It's Norwich Olympics. It was on my doorstep. So I wanted to run it above race pace, what I would look to do in an Ironman. But because I didn't feel that great, I thought, well, I'm not going to kill myself for it. So I just kind of tempoed it, if you know what I mean, on the run. The main bit was I wanted to push the swim hard and get another decent race start practice and a hard swim in, because, you learn so much from the open water swims, what you do at the start of a triathlon. And I wanted to just practice stuff again, get the tactics right and just see how I felt.
But it definitely looks like you had a decent swim relative to the guys around you, because you were out of the water maybe only 30 seconds behind Fraser Cartmel, who's a seriously good swimmer. He led out the pack at Roth, didn't he? So what was it that helped you out then? What have you learned, do you think, that helped you improve your swim at UK? Well,
I don't think that swim in UK was that great for me. I think it was if you look at my deficits, what I've had to lead, it was probably my worst swim in 5 Ironmans. Because up until the last 4, I'd only been 2.5 minutes behind the leader, and I was all right for the first lap, but non-wetsuit in the lake, I felt a bit tired towards the end. So I going through the age groupers on the second lap was really tough, because you constantly had your head up. So I don't feel like that was that great a swim. I think I might have been close to Fraser, but I think if you spoke to Fraser and asked him how his swim went, I don't think he would be too happy with that. He would have probably said that he didn't.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think he would have probably said that he didn't feel that great on the swim. And he was a bit disappointed because that wasn't, he should have done a bit better than that, because I felt like I should have done better. So I think he would have hoped to have been probably 52, 53 non-wetsuit, and I would have liked to have been probably 2 minutes quicker, 54.
Yeah. Okay.
With how I felt.
Is it a big issue for the pros having to swim through age groupers on the second lap these days?
Not in a 2-lap course, it is, but some of them do like a 1 lap, or if the 1 lap bigger and the second lap smaller, then it's not so bad. It's just slow because you have to keep putting your head up to make sure you're picking the right line, and if you swim into people, obviously it slows you down. You don't really want to do that because it's like not very pleasant for them. So you just end up swimming with your head out the water, like doing that water polo drill.
Yeah.
So it's just slow, but if everyone has to do it, then it's slow for everyone. But if someone's got what they call like the kayaks or the canoes, what they can follow, then they get a good advantage, because maybe the canoe or the kayak gets them a clean way through, or they can just like focus on their stroke and looking up and following them, so they can get a decent advantage because they don't have to keep worrying about sighting and seeing where they are and making sure they're not hitting people.
Yeah, that's interesting actually. I did wonder how that played out for you, because obviously on paper it looks, you're only 30 seconds down on Fraser and Mark Juleson, who's in second, but it often feels very different. 30 seconds doesn't look like much on paper, but it can feel like a big distance. It's probably 25, 30 meters, isn't it, in the real world? So I'd imagine with the age groups around you as well, you might not even realize that they're there. I
didn't even know they were there. And I didn't even know at all until after the race that I was only 30 seconds behind them, because I didn't see him in transition. I didn't see him at the bike at the start at all. So I was really surprised when I saw that, and I was like, 30 seconds? Well, I never saw him, I never had any saying that them two were just ahead of me getting out. So I had absolutely no idea. Because if I'd have known, then I would have liked to put a little dig in to try and catch them. I mean, I was riding fairly hard anyway, but maybe I lost a bit of time in transition to them when they started off hard on the bike, because I never saw them even on the long stretches at the start. So it's really surprising to actually see that in the results.
Well, this reminds me of the last time we spoke, and we mentioned about how the races in Hawaii you've had have played out, and how you thought it would be in your best interest basically to ride your own race in Hawaii rather than to try and get involved in, the kind of concertina effect of the pace line. And it certainly seems like in this race, riding your own race has really helped you out, get the best run out of you, hasn't it?
Yeah, but I think part of the reason why I've had like some good runs is just because some of the training sessions, what we do, are harder than the races. So whenever I start the run in an Ironman, it feels easier than what I've done in training.
Oh, that's interesting. Tell us about that then. What are you doing in training that's making your Ironman feel easier?
We'll just do some like hard 4-hour rides with some efforts at like above race pace, and then I go on to the run. I do a run and I run sub 6 minute mile for at least 15 miles off the bike, and I know if I'm doing that I'm like a harder pace than what I run in an Ironman, and that makes the Ironman feel quite comfortable at the start, and it gives you confidence. That I know I can get to 15 miles at a decent lick. So when I'm doing the Ironman, it actually feels easy. To be honest, the run in Bolton I didn't really feel like I was actually working that hard.
I was going to say, it looked like that. It looked like you were just out for you weren't running slowly, but it looked like you were really comfortable, even in that sort of 20 to 23 mile point where usually everyone's in agony. You just looked really comfortable. And I think for you to be able to go out and run 2:45 on a course like that, looking really comfortable 2 weeks after doing a race in Roth, it bodes really well for the future, mate.
I think Roth was a good training session for it, because I normally feel quite good after an Ironman. And it was interesting because I had a little chat when I was out in Roth with Cameron Worth. And to be honest, he was the one that actually talked me into racing Ironman UK. And because I was saying that I normally feel really good after an Ironman, and I recover quite well. And I just wanted to get his advice, because he's got a massive reputation, hasn't he, for racing a lot of races.
Every weekend.
Yeah, so it was just interesting talking to him, and I actually felt like Roth was a good training session because, your body doesn't know the difference between a race and training, does it? It just knows time and intensity. And I think, like, mentally, the hardest bit for an Ironman doing one 2 weeks later is the mental bit. You know, if you've had to dig really deep 2 weeks before, maybe you can't do that again because that takes a lot out of you. Whereas physically, I don't think it's actually that bad. You know, it's about when I look on Trainer Peaks, about 550 to 600 TSS. But some days in training, if you do a big day, it might be a 400 to 500 TSS day. So it's not, and you know, you're going into the Ironman tapered, aren't you? Whereas in training, if you do that, you might be doing it in a training block when you'll have like a day or two.
It certainly seems like it suits your body, doesn't it?
Yeah, I've actually got another one in 2 weeks' time as well. Well, next week now.
What's that one going to be?
Hamburg.
You're actually going to go and do Hamburg as well, are you?
Yeah, I've booked my ferry now and everything. But I feel pretty good, you know, afterwards. Like the muscle soreness actually was pretty much gone by Tuesday. Physically, I could feel it. You know, I felt a bit tired in myself. Like, and I would say I'm definitely not 100% just yet. But like, if you just looked at muscle soreness, I feel pretty good, and I feel actually some of the times that I've actually hit in the water have been pretty good for the effort. So I don't think I've got too much fatigue in me. So yeah, I'm going to Hamburg.
So the thinking there is you're going to race and make hay while the sun shines and have another race and take advantage of the sweet spot you're in at the moment, is it?
Exactly, yeah. And you know, that'll be my last race until Kona, really. So I want to just go out and just have a bit of fun, see what I can do, you know, and just go for it, get stuff in. And if it could go really well, but also I know like it could go bad, you know, it could come back to bite me in the run. But you know, I'm quite looking forward to giving it a go and just seeing what happens there.
Well, it's like there's no pressure, isn't it? You've got your ticket stamped, you've got the win. There's nothing to lose by going out there, and you've got plenty of time to recover afterwards. And it certainly seems like, I mean, I don't think it'd work for everybody or even very many people, but your body certainly seems to love it. So why not get out there and do it in a race situation rather than in training?
And one of the things what I was like talking when I talked to Cameron was like, I was asking him about, because he's done some grand tours, isn't he? Like the Vuelta and stuff like that. So I was saying, like, what do you think of like the actual stress of doing an Ironman? Because obviously, you know, you've done like, how does it compare to doing a 3-week grand tour? Because that's why I wondered, like, is it more mental than physical? And he said, yeah, physically, you know, it's hard, obviously. But when you're doing like a grand tour, he was saying that you get like 10 days or 15 days in, and some days you're so tired and you might have been in a crash and you've got a broken bone, you're struggling to sleep. And you wake up and you're absolutely shot, and then you've got to ride like 4 or 5 hours hard, you know, then you might have to sit on the front for like 2 hours or something like that, bringing back a breakaway. And I was thinking, yeah, well, when you look at like what they're doing in a grand tour, you know, they might have to travel like 200 miles from a stage at the end on a bus to the next stage. And, you know, they're doing it for the best part of a month, aren't they, really, when you're adding the rest days and everything. So doing an Ironman, it is a big day, but, you know, you can recover really well after it, can't you? And you go into it really fresh. Whereas like, you know, a grand tour, if you get to the stage 16, you might have already done 15 hard days and you might feel absolutely trashed, but you still got 5 more days to go.
So your approach is here that you're taking mental strength from the fact that there were other humans doing more than this, more frequently back to back, and thinking, well, if they can do this, then I can certainly try and push my envelope a bit and see where I get to. That's really clever, Joe.
Well, yeah, exactly. And I think like the hardest part of an Ironman, if you're trying to back them up, is how hard you've had to push mentally. Like, I think if I was in a really tough battle in Ironman UK and it came to the wire, you know, and it was like all about who wants it most and you had to really dig in, I don't think I'd be able to push myself again in 2 weeks' time. I think that would be a too taller order, because that takes a lot out of you, you know, really wanting to push your body to the limit. But I think if you haven't had to dig really deep and actually, you know, like, you can only really dig deep like that if it comes into a proper head-to-head, you know. If it had come into the last lap and it was like 15 seconds between us and we were both gunning for it, then, you know, that's going to take a lot more out of you. But I think when you haven't had to dig really deep like that, then you can go again. If you focus on the recovery, you know, I've really focused on the recovery from this one, so I've been eating pretty well, sleeping well and everything like that, and I'll carry on doing that all the way up to the race, and like making sure I don't train too hard, just keep ticking over.
Now, one other thing I want to ask you about, it's been in the press this week that you were riding a new bike at Bolton. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, so I was riding the new Ribble Ultra like triathlon bike. I contacted them about Roth time, probably just before Roth, because I'd seen pictures of it and I thought it looked a really fast bike. So I was really intrigued to try it and see what it was like. So I looked who to contact for Ribble, and it actually turns out that it was the guy from Boardman who I'd dealt with before.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I had his details. So I contacted him, and he was happy to let me try the bike. So yeah, I went up to Birmingham, met them, and took the bike back and tried it a few times in training. I actually tried it for that Olympic distance. That was one of the reasons why I wanted to do it as well, because it was a new. Because I wanted to try the bike in a race, because you always, you push it a bit differently in a race, don't you? And if there are any problems, they kind of always materialise, don't they, in a race, So
okay.
So yeah, I tried it, and yeah, it seemed really fast, and I could get a really nice position on it. So I thought, yeah, I'll definitely be looking to take it further with them, and I was happy to ride it for Ironman UK. So then we spoke again and got a deal together, and I'm going to be riding it for at least the rest of this year.
Oh, good stuff, man! It's always interesting when new kit comes on the market, and it certainly looked like you said, it looks like a fast bike. I know you can't tell that, and it's not a scientific thing to say, but it's a good looking piece of equipment, and it's got all the right bits and bobs in the right places to look fast compared to the other super bikes around at the moment, hasn't it?
Yeah, and they actually tested it. So Dan Bigham, who helped design it, I think you've had him on the show.
Yeah, we have. Yeah, I noticed him riding it actually.
Yeah, well, he was actually a big part in the design of it. And that was one of the things that I saw, and I thought, well, he's an absolute guru, isn't he, with aerodynamics? And I thought, well, if Dan's riding the road bike, the road TT, the ECI one version of it, then I thought it must be a pretty decent bike, because I don't think he would use it if it wasn't. And him having a massive influence in the design of it, I thought that was a massive selling point as well. And online, they've got some of the testing data from what he's done on it, and it was actually 1.5% faster with a rider on it, I think, than what he was on his previous bike last year. So you can see that on there, some of the data what they've had.
Oh, good stuff, man! We look forward to seeing what kind of bike split it can pull out of you out in Kona, hey?
Yeah, definitely, and I think Hamburg's quite a quick course as well. So it'd be interesting to see what I can do there.
Yeah, definitely. So the plan for the rest of the season, then you're going to race Hamburg, take a bit of a break, and then it's the big build to Kona, is it?
Yeah, and I'm actually looking to go on altitude training from the 7th of August to the 28th. So if anyone's actually listening to this and has any time off during that time, who'd like to come for like a week or two, or even the whole 3 weeks, contact me, because it'd be good to get a few of us together out there. There's a couple of us that are going at the moment, but yeah, it'd be nice to get a few more. And
whereabouts are you going to?
To Font-Romeu in the Pyrenees.
Good stuff, right then. So you heard it here first, listeners. If you're interested in a training camp with Ironman UK winner Joe Skipper, you can get in contact with him. What's your details, Joe, on social media and website and all that, so people can get in contact with you if they want to check out more?
My Instagram's Not Another Average Joe. Twitter is No Average Joe 88. Facebook's just Joe Skipper, and my email's on my website, joeskipper.co.uk. But it's joeskipper@hotmail.co.uk.
All right, there we go. Well, listen, man, thank you very much for coming on the show, and congratulations again. It's fantastic to see you take the top step in Ironman UK, and it also means you have to come back and defend it next year, mate. You can't be done with the race. You can't not show up next year. Now you're defending champ.
Yeah. No, thanks for all the support, Rob, as well, out there, and but before the race and stuff, what you've with me as well. I really appreciate it.
No worries, buddy. Right, good stuff. Well, we'll look forward to seeing how you get on in Hamburg and then onwards to Kona, Joe. Take care of yourself, buddy.
Yes, thanks very much.
Great to see Joe finally get that win for Ironman UK, hey?
Oh, so pleased. Where do I sign up for the Alps, Rob?
Yeah, Pyrenees, I think.
Pyrenees, yeah. The mountains, sorry.
Get yourself out there. Yeah, I'm lucky. My dates don't quite cross over. I was like, I could meet up. And then I was like, no, probably riding up those mountains with Joe's not what your legs need right now.
Oh, that'd be beastly. That'd be absolutely beastly. No, I genuinely, cracking interview, loved it. I like the fact how he, he's just, he's a extremely talented, normal bloke. I.e., after Roth, went to Belgium and
had a holiday.
had a holiday.
Yeah.
Had a holiday. And I love the fact that he, when he did his Olympic the following week, he's like, yeah, I felt a bit tired, and there's, Bro Joe doing it on a barbecue.
Yeah.
Love it.
Well, maybe I'm wrong about my advice about sausage rolls. A stomach full of sausage worked well for Joe, didn't it? So who am I to...
He did say he felt a bit tired. And the other things, Rob, which obviously absolutely delighted that he won Ironman UK, but I thought it was very interesting just how easy it felt for him on that run.
We said this at the time when we were out there watching. I didn't realise at the time how fast he was running, and he looked super easy. He looks like he's in the form of his life, where running a 2:45 for him is like running 3 hours for everybody else. He could have gone under 2:40 that day on that course, no question. He's just absolutely flying. His form was perfect all the way to the end, and it was just incredible to see an athlete at the top of his game. Yeah, brilliant. And exciting even more so. I know we're going to come on to this in the news section, but the fact he's racing when he's got form, he's going to go out and do Hamburg anyway. Doesn't need the points for Kona, but he's in great form. The kid loves to race. He's going out there, and we were looking, weren't we, at the start list? There's going to be some great racing goes on there. Who else was out there?
Yeah, so Tim Don is going to be racing at Hamburg.
So Tim's in his first Ironman then, isn't he, after he's come back from accident? Yeah,
because he did Costa Rica, didn't he, which he won, the 70.3. Will Clark, who DNF'd in Bolton, he's going to be there.
So Will needs that to validate his slot for Kona, doesn't he, after not getting the points he needed at UK. And again, Will's another guy who was in... He said to us he was in fantastic shape for UK, so that's going to carry over, and he's in fantastic form as well. So that's good.
Yeah, so Hamburg's going to be brilliant. That's this weekend. Rob, I think we could all take a little bit of we could have a little bit of Joe Skipper going around in our brains when we get onto the run of any distance triathlon, really, because you can just change the distances, can't you, for what you're doing?
Yeah.
It seemed a very mature approach this time to the marathon. He's like, get to halfway, then push on a little bit.
Yeah.
And then for him, it was the last 10 the last 10 kilometers, use the crowds to get him to the finish. We might not all be doing a marathon at the end of a triathlon, but we might have a 5K, we might have a 10K, get to halfway, push on a little bit, and then use the crowds to get you to the finish line.
That's it, man. It's a long day out. Even a sprint triathlon's only sprint because it's got the word sprint in it. It's an hour long at best, isn't it? That's not sprinting. That's a serious endurance event. And I think for all of us, maintaining our composure, leaving any of the transitions and not getting too excited, it's a key thing, because essentially we've got 3 races in one where you get that big burst of adrenaline at the start of each leg, don't you? And controlling it is massively important.
Yeah, and it takes a lot of practice, doesn't it? And
Sure
a lot
does.
of failed attempts.
Yeah.
But hey, it's good to fail, isn't it? We learn from it.
You said it, man. All right then. So, excuse me, clear my throat there. I seem to have scrolled off the bottom of the page. Where are we?
Well, there's one other little bit of news to bring you, because we've told you about Ironman Hamburg. So the other bit of news, Rob, this weekend, it was the anniversary games, the athletics in London. It was the London Diamond League, and there was a familiar name on the start list for the 5,000 metres.
Go on, I didn't see this.
Alex Yee.
Oh,
now,
wow.
Alex Yee, yes, World Junior Duathlon Champion. Now, if you just looked at everyone crossing the line, you'd think, he was last, British, whatever. Okay. He is 20 years old still. He did a PB, and he did 13 minutes, 34.12.
I don't care what anyone says. That is terrifying run speed, isn't it?
Isn't it?
If you're coming up against him in a triathlon, the psych out factor alone of knowing wherever he races next at duathlon or triathlon, people are going to be, or at least should be, talking about the fact that this kid has run a 13:34 5K.
Yeah.
That's Diamond League quality running. And
correct.
When you look at the fact that I think the winner ran like a 52-second last lap and was 20 seconds up on him, he's in contention going through to the bell, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or he's certainly, he's within 40, 50 metres of the boys in a race like that. That's just
remarkable, isn't it?
Yeah, remarkable. How exciting.
Yeah. I know. So yeah, it'd be good, and we will continue to follow his progress. And then Rob, the other bit of news is that I appeared to hit enter on something over the weekend.
You hit enter on something. Okay, go on. So I'm guessing this isn't going to be a small thing. If you've entered an event and you're telling us about it, go on.
Well, you know that we did the 6K swim.
Okay.
So we thought we'd up it a bit. So we're going to do a 10K swim in September now.
Oh, wow. In the same place?
Down back in Devon, yeah. We're going to do the Dart 10K. We managed to get 2 places from people who this time of year, people I think realise that they haven't done the training. I think 6K kind of counts as okay training, doesn't it? So we thought, yes, let's build on this. Let's go and do it. You only live once.
A 10K swim, wow. Good effort.
Thankfully downriver again.
That'll be epic, won't it?
Yeah. But there are aid stations on the swim. What the hell?
Yeah, because you're going to be in the water for a good couple of hours with that, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's going to be 2.5, 3 hours worth of swimming. So, yeah, brilliant.
Yeah. Very exciting.
How current assisted will it be, do you think?
Very current assisted. Can't wait.
Oh, cool. All right, nice one.
If it's like Bantham, and I said last week, that was almost the equivalent of 4.5, but it was a 6K swim.
Right, got you.
So if it's anything like that, it should be fine.
So it lopped a good bit off it.
Yeah.
The race out at the ETUs was like that this weekend. It was downstream with the current. I nearly said downhill then. In fact, so much so they increased the standard distance race. They were swimming 1750 instead of 1500, and it was still lightning fast times.
Yeah, thankfully they won't be increasing this to 12K or anything horrendous like that.
Good stuff.
There you go. I'll keep you posted.
Cool. Well, we better wrap it up, I think, hadn't we? Better go and do some training for the Outlaw this coming weekend.
Yep, more panic training. Well, Rob, I will see you there. Can't wait. And again, if you are around, if you're coming, if you're supporting, come and say hello to us. Look out for the yellow t-shirt on Saturday. Please bring £10 if you haven't yet bought a copy of Fueled by Cake. And I will be selling some cake books there. It's all for charity. fueledbycake.com if you want to find out a little bit more.
Awesome. And if you haven't got a copy of that book yet, you need to get one. It's brilliant. Some delicious recipes in there. So, in fact, why not buy 2? Buy 1 for you and buy 1 for a friend.
Yes, do that.
That's the deal. So we'll have a special offer on Hell's. Buy 2 for double the price. How about that?
Correct. It's a bargain.
All right, team, if you're at the Outlaw, we will see you there this coming Saturday for registration. If you're not, come down and cheer everyone on anyway. It's going to be a beautiful day. What a better way to spend it than sitting on the banks of Home Pier Point, having an ice cream and cheering at me sweating my balding head off, trying to get my sorry backside around. All right, everyone, listen, you've been listening to the Oxygenaddict Triathlon Podcast. Thanks again very much to our sponsors, precisionhydration.com. Remember, you can use the code Oxygenaddict at checkout to get $9.99's worth of free product. And I'm Coach Rob Wilby.
I'm Helen Murray.
And until next week, have a great, safe training and racing week. We'll speak to you all again soon. All right, everyone, take it easy. See you again soon. See ya.